Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. It is Tuesday at noon Eastern Time. So for everyone joining us out on the West Coast, we appreciate you getting up and joining us earlier in your day. I'm really excited for this conversation. I will introduce myself and then the panel, and we will get started. So my name is Barbie Winterbottom, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Business of HR. And I have a 20 or so years worth of experience in the people space, and I have a passion for helping us transition from people who work in HR to becoming business leaders who work in the people space. And a big part of that is how we are perceived within our organizations, how we brand ourselves as professionals, and how that influences the cultures and the organizations in which we work. So for all of you who are watching, before I introduce the panel, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. If you've not been on a LinkedIn Live before or joined one, if you're joining us through LinkedIn, we can see your comments. So I highly encourage you to share your comments and questions with us. We can see them, but we cannot respond to them through the LinkedIn Live chat. The system doesn't allow it, but if you type in your comments or questions, I will see them and I will bring them forward to the panel. If you're watching from YouTube Live, we will be able to see your comments as well, and I will bring those forward to the panel. And what we have found is that these sessions are best when you guys are as interactive as possible. So I'm hoping that we will have some great interaction and engagement today. So with that, I will introduce, and I will just go around the way I see people on my screen. So to my right is Jeannie Walden. She is the Chief Marketing and Innovation Officer at Daily Pay. She has been a global force in the marketing world, a sought-after keynote speaker, and a recent congressional award winner for innovation and service to the community. So welcome, Jeannie. Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience today?
I'm just so thrilled and honored to be here on this incredible panel. I think you've created some very interesting and thought-provoking questions, and I'm really looking forward to us all discussing them and, most importantly, hearing from the audience as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeannie. Next, we have Bill Dolan, who is an Emmy-nominated TV creative director and an author of a book on relationship marketing. And I see so many interconnected ideas and concepts from what Bill has done in his career and when we're talking about working in HR and partnering with our marketing folks. So Bill, welcome.
It's great to be here. I'm thrilled to work with Jeannie and Barbie and Lorena. And you know what I'm most excited about? Talking about people and not just systems, because that's really the important thing. So I'm really excited about this. Happy to be here.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. And Bill is currently the president of Spirit Media. Sorry about that, Bill. I don't want to forget your title there. That's important.
We're talking about people.
Yeah. Well, last but certainly not least is Lorena Acosta, who is a social media maven. She is a personal branding expert. Lorena has amassed at least 1.34 million followers on LinkedIn alone. And she coaches and helps develop personal brands for individuals as well as businesses. And Lorena, welcome to the panel. I'm so excited you're here today.
I'm so happy to see you again.
Thank you. All right.
A few weeks ago.
I know. I wish we got to see each other every day. Let me ask you guys on the panel, when you're not speaking, maybe go on mute because I'm hearing a little bit of feedback somewhere and I'm not sure where it's coming from. So just that might help a little bit. All right. So the first question, and I'll just start with Jeannie because she's to my right. Based on your experience as an employee, right? So maybe not today in your executive space, but when you were an employee, kind of the rank and file employee, I'd love to hear, what was your impression of HR and what types of interactions did you have with your HR teams, maybe when you worked in marketing instead of leading marketing?
Gosh, you asked me to be super honest today, so I'm going to be. And I've got to say, as an employee, I think I would describe my thoughts about HR as being extremely underestimating their role and the importance in the organization. I pretty much saw them as a facilitator of a variety of rules and regulations, more from an operational perspective. So as I've moved into different companies, certainly in different roles and definitely at Daily Pay, I've come to appreciate the strategic importance that the HR leader has for the organization and the importance they have in building and maintaining a culture. I think from a marketing executive perspective, in prior roles, I've always seen HR as a partner to make sure that we're doing branding that not only encompasses marketing's goals, which is to drive revenue through more customers, but also to look at the impact that we're having on the branding so we can attract and retain the top talent. So two different perspectives in that arena, but I definitely have seen this a great shift in the role that HR plays probably over the past 5 years, from being the behind the scenes facilitator to the strategic seat at the table that really makes a difference, especially through COVID, in providing the ability for companies to stay in business and thrive.
Yeah, there has been a big shift, right? In the past, I'd say in the past 5 years, but certainly at lightning speed in the past 12 to 18 months, we've seen HR teams really pivoting in ways that perhaps they hadn't before. And I find it, thrilling that we're actually in a place now where we have shown that we can be different. But it's almost, how do we now take that forward, and how do we continue now that we've gotten some stronghold of, wow, they're more than just the people who hire and fire. They're more than just the policy police, right? There is a strategic element to this. How do we continue that? And I think a big part of that is how we build those internal relationships and maintain that elusive seat at the table, right? I think that that's huge, which kind of leads us right into the work that Bill has done, right? And relationship marketing and how we strengthen those relationships. So Bill, in your past experience, perhaps as an employee or working in the entertainment industry, what was your perception of HR, and perhaps how has that evolved over time?
Well, I'm excited to say it has evolved over time, because it's been a long time since I've been an employee. But I remember my perception of HR was they put out memos, they deal with rules and regulations, and they do firing. And I was one of the benefits of their firing policy, because I got fired from my job like 30 years ago. And, so I didn't look at the HR department as being an extension of a brand. I saw it as basically being an enforcement agency. Yeah. And I'm thrilled now that a lot of the work that we do in our agency is actually with HR departments. So they hire us to do annual meetings and annual events, because they recognize that branding is a 360-degree experience. And if you don't treat your people well, and if you don't think about the big picture of the organization, you're going to get stuck in a pocket, and you're going to destroy the brand, especially now when we're having trouble hiring good people. Mm-hmm. And good people are going to good companies with good cultures, with strong brands and great leadership. And if the HR department isn't leading that, they are going to suffer. It's just going to be a bad situation for those HR departments. And the marketing department is going, gosh, I'm always fighting them, trying to pick up, always fighting them. Yeah. So, but I'm excited to see that is changing, and forward-thinking HR leaders are partners of marketing and genuinely think about 360-degree love and branding in their culture.
Mm-hmm. And it really is it's that relationship piece that makes all the difference. And in my experience, I've worked with amazing marketing teams, and I've worked with some really stubborn marketing teams. And where I think the friction has really played itself out in my experience has been helping our internal marketing teams understand the nuances of the employment brand versus the customer or consumer brand, and how there are slight variances, but they have to be aligned, right? If you're a Nike and your tagline is just do it, you can't have an employment brand that is going to be stagnant where it completely is unrelated, right? There has to be that alignment and that synergy, but there are variables. People want to know what it's like to work there, what benefits them to work there outside of just it being cool, right? And that I use that brand not because I've ever worked there, but because it's just the tagline, everyone knows it, and you can get that visual very quickly. But it's one of those things where I've really struggled at times with internal marketing and PR, not just marketing, but marketing and PR folks, to understand why we need the messages we need in that employment marketing. And I think that's a big part of the evolution of where we are, because I see that more and more internal teams are starting to work cohesively and building out both elements of the brand, because there are separate elements. So I love what you said, Bill, and I think it's really important for both teams to understand that, not just HR and not just marketing, but you're collectively representing the organization. So how do you bring that together? Really, really helpful. Lorena, I would love to hear what your experience has been as an employee, and how have you perceived the HR departments throughout your career?
Well, when I was younger, the HR department was my boss. So, it was him and me. So I didn't actually work for so many people. I worked for a few companies during 27 years. But the last two companies that I work, I noticed two things different. The first company that I work, the HR department was divided in two. It was the C-level executive who was among us, and he was, sharing and talking, and with us as employees. He was very nice. There was the other HR department that was downstairs, that you go direct to say, to complain, to talk about your things. And the person who was there, it was a young girl, wasn't very nice. She wasn't she never welcomed us. We always talk about her about her attitude towards us. Her attitude was hostage. It was nothing was hostile, was nothing nice, welcoming. Yes, let me see what can I do for you. It was always like she treated us bad. And the other guy who was the VP, he treated us good. So you could see, like, you didn't understand why the same culture was not together, why they didn't cultivate the same culture in HR. So why he was going to be the good one and she was going to be the bad one? It wasn't a strategy. It was an internal strategy, or it was just the wrong person that they hire. Right?
It could be that the leader was out of touch with the members of his team, which is often the case. And we can live in this siloed, facade of reality at an executive level. And if we don't intentionally insert ourselves into conversations and spaces and places where everyday conversations are happening with employees and our teams, we'll never know. And so I think that can be a big challenge, depending on the organization, is how in touch is that senior executive leader with the brand of his or her team within the organization. And far too often there's big disconnects there. And you see some HR folks, they're overworked, they don't get the support, they don't get the funding, they don't get the tools and systems necessary to do their job as efficiently as possible. And so you have that haggard person who isn't going to greet you with a smile, who isn't going to be excited to see you.
She was very young. Very young.
Maybe
so
not.
He was even like, why she's mean? There is no reason.
Right.
So that was one job, right? The other job, the lady who was the HR, she was an amazing lady. She was in the company for many, many years, but she never engaged with us as employees.
Yeah.
So, for us, when I was in those two jobs, hopefully the last ones, my life, so I, my perception and what I hear from my other coworkers is like HR doesn't support. HR is not with the employees, it's with the seniors.
It's with the company.
Yes.
So I submitted a poll to LinkedIn last week asking folks to respond. What is your perception of HR? And because I really want to make sure that for those of us who work in this space, we understand the way we are perceived within our organizations and collectively. And so the responses, there's several hundred responses at this point. And of the responses, 47% are unfavorable. And the other remaining, the 53% of positive responses, the majority of those individuals are HR practitioners. So I say that because it's really not, I don't believe, truly representational of how everyone outside of HR believes about HR, right? Because most of the folks who follow me and track my content on LinkedIn are folks in the HR profession. So it makes sense that they're responding to that poll. But if we were to take out everybody who worked within the HR space and just looked at those polling responses based on non-HR people, the majority of responses are unfavorable. And I do that not to make people feel beat up or to diminish the value of HR in any way. I did it because I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Bill and Jeannie and Lorena, in order to rebrand, in order to change something, you have to know where you are right now, right? If you want to build a strategy to change it, that's great. But if you don't have a realistic perception of what's happening today, you could go down a wrong path very quickly, because you have to know what to fix in order to rebrand and to rebuild what it is you're looking for. So I thought it was really quite telling, the results of that. So Bill, let me start with you on the next question. How do you believe storytelling, like what does storytelling have to do with marketing, and how can we bring storytelling into the world of HR?
Well, storytelling is just one of many tools that we put in our marketing tool bag, basically as a vehicle to make an emotional connection instead of just feeding people PowerPoints and bullet points. To storytelling touches the limbic system. It is a way to bypass just bullet points, which often tragically HR has to do because they're dealing with rules and regulations, especially after a year of COVID. I mean, I have such a heart for those HR professionals that were trying to navigate this last season because they've never had to deal with anything like that before.
Right.
But this is what I would encourage out of this is that, and I agree, you need to know where you are. But I would say even more important, you need to always keep in mind where you want to go, what you believe in, the purpose of the company, the missions of the company, the values of the company. Because the HR department, as the marketing department, becomes a way of being the living embodiment of that. And so when you can become the living embodiment of that, for example, and I say this respectfully, a lot of people that get to the CEO level might come in through the sales department or come in through the financial department or things like that. Sometimes you get marketing people, sometimes HR, but most of the time they're financial people. And they're really good with numbers. And they should be compensated well for doing well with numbers. But they need a strong marketing and HR team to remind them what the living embodiment of their brand looks like on a day-to-day basis. And if that involves stories both in marketing, but stories of the people that work there. Because guess what? This is where stories can go bad on you. If you do not take care of your people, if you do not have a healthy brand culture, if you don't look at nurturing people, and people, instead of thinking their job, say, oh, this doesn't feed me, this bleeds me, it's going to show up.
Yeah.
And it's going to affect your entire culture, and it's going to affect your performance, both financially and emotionally. So that's where the stories can be good about the good of the company, because you empower them. And it's bad because if you're messing up, stories are going to be told, and they're going to be told with feeling and passion and sometimes anger.
Yeah. And I think that there's a great example, when I watch an amazing salesperson or marketing person, Jeannie and I have presented together, and when I watch her, it's a seamless experience for the audience. It's not this hard sell, right? It's a story about the organization, what the company stands for, why they do what they do, what the purpose of the organization is, and how they serve customers. And if our HR folks can understand the power of that type of storytelling and how we can tell the stories of our people in ways to influence the organization and the culture, because the culture is really an emotional manifestation of everything that happens within that company, every conversation, every email, every interaction. So when we are able to craft our conversations, and when we're presenting to the organization or to our stakeholders to get funding for a new tool or a new system or a new program, if we don't speak the language they understand and tell that story that has the arc so they understand the long-term payoff of that investment, we're not going to get the support. And where I feel like we've got to really get better as an HR function is to not go in prepared with HR speak, right? That's what we end up doing, and that's where we always fall flat. We have to infuse our language with the marketing storytelling concept so that we take everyone on a journey with us and they can see the benefit of whatever it is we are trying to sell to those folks who are going to say, yes, this is a worthy investment, and we're going to support this initiative. We're going to support adding talent. We're going to support, a new system to help the recruiting team or what have you. But instead, we often go in with, we're just overworked and we need help. And you're not going to get the support you need, right? So I think there's a lot of valuable lessons we can learn from the way marketing folks have figured out the storytelling concept. Really, really important.
Can I add something to that? And this is just really important when you talk about storytelling, is that from an HR, even a marketing perspective, and Jeannie knows this really well, this is knowing your audience and caring about your audience and respecting your audience is fundamental to great storytelling. Because otherwise, if we just try to institutionalize our memos and our messages and our stories, whatever, because we think it's a good one, we totally miss the mark. And I use the term in my book. I say the difference between a message versus writing a love letter. Look into the eyes of your people. Look into the eyes of your audience. Look into the heart of your audience. Don't turn into some big sociological experiment. It's harder because relationships are harder. But the richness that comes through taking and caring and respecting your people pays dividends. Even if you're a heartless dog and you don't care about people, you're going to get better results if you do that. But also, it's better for you and it's better for the company. And I can say honestly, refer to Nike, we're Nike country. I've worked with Nike. I've done a lot of events with Nike. I have family that works for Nike, that's hiring for Nike right now. I'm intimately familiar with that process. And it starts with them saying, yeah, just do it. But it has to bleed down through every person, and it has to be lived every day, because the integrity of the brand is at stake.
Absolutely.
May I add something there, just Barbie? Your company, every company brand strategy should include the organization mission, vision, and values, and you need to communicate all this from down to top. And this is something that it's clearly missing inside of many organizations. You can expect your employee to connect with a mission they don't believe in.
Absolutely. And if they know that, if that's not clear up front from the very first time they saw a recruitment ad, from the very first time they saw a job posted and they went through the application process, if those values aren't woven into that language, you're going to lose them, right? And then you're going to have a lot of misalignment. So it's a great point, Lorena. We have to make sure it's not just words on a wall.
No.
We have to
Brand
operationalize
must be
that.
created from inside out.
Agreed.
Definitely.
Absolutely agreed. So Jeannie, I'm going to go to you for the next question. If we decide as an HR team, right, that we're going to rebrand ourselves, how would you recommend we even start that process? What would that look like?
I have been waiting for this question because I have
I didn't know
fun answer for everybody. You know, in marketing, when we're building a brand and at Daily Pay, we just spent 6 months rebranding our company. And we did, Lorena, think about it from the inside out, from the bottom up, from the top down, from sideways. You know, but when you're building any kind of brand, you start with, why does this company exist? Like, what are you here to accomplish? And why does it matter? What problem does it solve? What value does it bring to your end user? That's the second question. And the third question is, how do I get that end user to fall in love with my company in a way that it's such a strong understanding that when they see my logo or they see my name, they understand the value that I'm going to bring to them, to the point where it just evokes a positive emotion that I can actually stay in front of my executive team or my CEO, that the brand is strong and it's moving in the right way. And I think that when you are building an employment brand or a brand for HR, and we're actually moving into that right now at Daily Pay, you take those 3 questions and you ask them from the perspective of the HR team or the people team. You know, why does HR exist in this company? Now, on one hand, and this is really interesting, and I'd love to hear all the comments to see how on track I may be. You know, the HR team is here to build the culture, to keep us safe, to keep us engaged, to make us operationally successful. But on the other hand, the HR team is here to help this company grow its revenues and grow its structure, maintain and retain its client base. They're here to build the best and the brightest to ensure that the business results are success. So if the HR team can all organize around why they exist and understand that their customer is actually the employee, and it's the employee that needs to become the brand ambassador, that gives you the ability to start answering questions that just really have ideas flowing from your head. Because I share this stat all the time. When an employee posts on social media, anything, when any of us post on social media, on average, we reach about 350 unique people a year. So if you take the number of employees that you have in your company and times it by 350 unique people, every time an employee of your company posts about your organization, good or bad, they're reaching at least 350 new people that your company did not have a reputation built with. And whether you're looking at recruiting or retaining or just even driving customers, that really matters, especially when you get into larger organizations. That same 350 people will reach out and expand to a larger network, where it ends up that one employee impacts the brand reputation of 3,000 people a year. Now, there's 2 ways to think about this. One way is, yes, that helps me with the reputation and the culture. It helped me attract and retain top talent. But on the other side of the business, it also impacts whether people will shop or work or pay homage and tribute to your business. The way that the HR team works and builds a culture has an impact on the bottom line revenues for the company. And it's fascinating to see how strategically important that has become. And it's just really exciting to have the opportunity to give people 3 questions to step back and answer and start to rebuild their HR brand.
I swear I did not pay Jeannie for that answer. I have to say that right now, because the alignment with what you just said, and so much of the work I do when I'm consulting with organizations or coaching HR folks, and to help them understand, this is one of the first things I do. If I'm brought into an organization where they have an underperforming HR team, one of the very first things I say is, what is your purpose? What is your purpose statement? do? Why are you here? How do you serve your organization, or how do you partner with your organization? Because sometimes I think we use the word excuse me, serve, and we get it confused with servitude, which is very different. So I want to be sensitive, because HR folks are here to support the business just like every other function of the business is. And we have to make sure we see it with that lens, because traditionally or historically, it's been the catch-all, right? We don't know what to do with this thing, so throw it to HR. Oh, well, we don't want to have that conversation. Let HR do it. And we have to stand up to be as functioning and respected as finance, as marketing, as sales, as every other business function of the organization. And to do that, we have to know who we are. If we don't, how do we expect anyone else to know who we are? So, Jeannie, you said it so beautifully, and I'm glad this is going to record. So
I would like to add something at what Jeannie just mentioned, and I 100% with you, Jeannie. This is what I always talk about on LinkedIn. Today, many companies still believe that that the brand it's an external promise, and I'm glad that we agree on that. But employees need to be included in creating the brand itself. And they must be rewarded for the brand through the daily actions. Mm-hmm. If a company doesn't set internal delivery on the external brand promise, the marketing always will fail. Always.
Right. Because it's not congruence.
Exactly. Absolutely. Because your employees are your first face. People has thousands of followers and connections on social media. You are crazy if you don't think that people goes to their house and talk about your company in the dining table while they're having dinner, mm-hmm. or in the next barbecue on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's an internal promise, and people really needs to wear the t-shirt. So if HR is not inside and is not breathing and living the brand with their employees, it's not gonna work.
No. And let's take that another level and kind of capitalizing what Jeannie shared, right? If you look at that data where every employee has the opportunity to impact, 3,000 unique people, unique visitors in any given period of time, how do we, as an employee of an organization, build our own personal brand, right? Because that not only will help elevate your organization, but it also helps to elevate you and your marketability and the trajectory of your career, right? So Lorena, when you work with your clients and you help folks from a personal brand perspective, what are some of the things that would apply to an HR person who's looking to build their career, build their brand, let people know, like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I want to do, and this is who I work for today, but I want to be a VP or a CHRO, and I want to build that trajectory for myself. So how can we start to do that with our own branding in social media?
The first thing that I always do with my clients is we go through an exercise that is, going back to their values. As we evolve as human beings, as we have different life experiences every day, our values change. My values weren't the same a year ago. With all the coronavirus, my values completely changed. If my family was in one of my values, right now my family was the priority, right? So you change your values in base of your experiences. So you cannot continue to believe that you have the same values that your parents told you when you were having dinner, when you were in fourth grade. So your values change, and you need to really make a research about who you are, who you want to be, and how do you want to be perceived?
Right.
Who is the people that you want to be around? What is the people that you want to start attracting? Because in the end of the day, if you have the title of HR on your profile, how many people is going to follow you just to ask you for a job? Mm-hmm. So how do you want to be perceived? You are going to be one of the faces of the organization. Right. So you want to be as a bitter person, arrogant, rude, no mm-hmm. social, and you have to if you want to really change your image, you need to start within. You need to start in your organization before you come to social media. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? It's like spitting into the sky. If you are not the same person offline and you try to be different person online, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, the authenticity has to be there, right? That through line has to be there for sure. And I think what is interesting is if we look at business pages and then we look at personal pages, because I've even done this testing, right? I have a business page, I have a personal page, but people connect with people. And the business pages are great for information and kind of directives and where to go for X, Y, and Z and that type of thing. But what I find is that people want to know about me, right? We buy from people we trust. Well, we follow people we trust or who have the same values or the same, basic views or perspectives on things. And so when we're posting out there, these are tips that I've taken from Lorena, from Jeannie, from Bill, from all these experts, is you have to bring forward whatever those shared values are so that you can connect with your audience. And then you can start to share information about your product. But if all you're ever doing is posting, now hiring, we have open jobs, that's not telling any stories. That's not sharing anything about your values or who you are. So when you're building that brand, whether it's your personal brand or your organization's brand, you have to bring those values and those common things, those themes that are meaningful forward so that people start to trust you, start to know more about you, and they want to follow you.
Something that I have noticed lately on Google and LinkedIn is that every time a new employee joined the company, they made a post and they say, today was my first day on LinkedIn. And they say why they're excited. They say why they joined the company. And everybody in the company comes and say, welcome to the company. I'm here to support you. And this is the culture that they have. Mm-hmm. But those are the only two companies who are doing it on LinkedIn. Nobody else is doing it. Why the rest of them are not copying what the other ones are doing if they are successful? Why, if you're an HR person, why don't you start having a file as part of your social media content and start creating a file about the hirings that you have and the successful stories that you have in your organization? And those are the stories that you're supposed to start sharing and bring your employers to engage on your content and create and bring that culture online.
Yeah. Yep. And Bill, how do you think we can do that, right? How do we help our employees understand how to craft posts that are engaging and connect it to both them personally and their organization?
Well, that's a great question and not an easy answer, frankly, because not every employee wants to post on behalf of the company. A lot of people think about the personal brand as their personal brand and not their corporate brand, and they don't want to be used as instruments or billboards of a company. And so we honestly, at our agency, we're really careful about that because, stories, when people tell stories, in part, it's because we believe that they will add value to somebody's life, or we believe it'll add value to our life. And so the way that you can encourage your team members or people to talk about you is to give them something compelling to talk about. Sorry.
There's not me, Bill.
That's me. To give them something compelling to talk about. That's what virility comes from. It's not just because you told somebody to like and share. Yeah, gee, how many people have obeyed that command? Not many. Right. But give them something to talk about. And that's where a company, I'm sorry about that. That's where a company can really raise the bar by giving them something to talk about. And one of the things I encourage, I know Jean probably just got through with this with the rebranding of her company, is we advocate that every company have first a mission manifesto. And the mission manifesto is clarity about the purpose, why. Absolutely. Why do we exist? And then I'm a little bit of a rebel in that I don't believe in one mission. I believe in multiple missions, because the purpose is something you live. A mission is something you can say mission accomplished, because it might be seasonal. It could be for a particular project, or it might be a prerequisite to another accomplishment. So give yourself lots of missions. And then vision. I say, give yourself like the cover of a puzzle box. Don't just go, oh, it's going to be this. Think about when you're a kid. Make your vision so clear that you can describe it in intimate detail, so that as an organization, whether it's an organization or HR or marketing, they can look at the pieces and know what those pieces are and where they go. And even more important, dismiss the pieces that don't go in your puzzle.
Yeah.
And then, of course, set values, set goals. And if the company does that, that's the master brand. But the HR department needs to do that too. They need to say, why are we here? What are our missions?
Preach, Bill. Preach it.
You know, so if they become basically a sub-brand honoring that master brand, it gives them more clarity. It gives them more purpose. It gives them more definition, and allows them with the marketing department now to walk in harmony. And when you walk in harmony, it's not just we agree. You multiply the impact, because you multiply the extension of the brand. And now maybe you can get your team members to talk about you because you've given them something compelling to talk about. And as Lorraine said earlier, guess what? I'll wear the shirt and I'll wear it proudly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me. No, go ahead, Jeannie. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I totally agree with everything that you just said. And, we are living through it still. Like I said, we just finished the corporate rebrand. We did the mission. We did the manifesto. We did who we are and why we are that. And as we're moving into the employer brand, one of the things that we're adding to everything that you said is we're looking at employee engagement survey insights, and most importantly, exit survey data. So that it can give us additional perspective for our employer brand, so that it can match into and help build what our mission is. Of the people that are leaving, why are they leaving? How does that compare to the brand and the mission that we're on? Did we grow? Daily Pay is growing, hyper growth startup, right? We're growing very quickly. So are we outgrowing what people wanted in roles? Are they looking for something else in their career? Did they get scooped up by the most incredible opportunities ever because of their experience at Daily Pay and the way that the brand is positioned? And we think all of this data feeds into just creating an incredible go forward employer brand that puts us in the right space. So, Barbie, I'll make this crazy offer. People should reach out to you, not me. And then I can reach out to you, but I'm happy to share even a skeleton of what we went through to define our Daily Pay brand, just some questions and answers, and what we're doing on the employer brand, if it's helpful for anybody that might be going through this right now.
I love that. So yes, absolutely. If anybody's interested in that framework, please reach out to me and I will get it from Jeannie and I will share it with you. And I can even put it, I'm in the process of rebuilding my own website, and I have some downloadable tools there. So I can even build it out as a downloadable that we can put there. So thank you. That's really generous, Jeannie. I appreciate you doing that. And I love this conversation is so important, because we tend to gloss over some of these elements, and we simply can't. If we want to be that strategic voice for the people of our organizations, we have to get that alignment, and we have to do a better job of being strategic. And what I love about what Bill and Jeannie and Lorena have said is that your values can change. You evolve as a person. Your company evolves as they grow or change their product offerings or what have you. And if we apply agile methodology to the work we do in HR, which is something that I spend a lot of time coaching folks on, is understand that it's a series of small wins that add up to big changes. And so in the past, if you worked in HR, you didn't roll anything out if it wasn't perfect with a bow on it, right? Because if it was wrong, if we made a mistake, it could impact someone's paycheck, it could impact someone's benefits, it could impact the entire organization. And so there's high stakes with mistakes that could happen within the HR space. And we have to understand that mistakes are going to happen. And if we can approach this with a sprint mentality of here's what we're looking at right now and for the next 6 months and the next year, and what does that look like today? And it's okay to evolve beyond that. It's not stagnant, it's not finite. It is a living, breathing part of the work we do all the time. And I think that's where there's so much opportunity for folks within the HR space to kind of take a leaf out of the notebooks of really great marketing teams, because they evolve the brand to remain relevant, right? Nike's been around for a long time. McDonald's has been around for a long time. Disney's been around for a long time, but they have found ways to remain relevant to audiences, and it always feels fresh. You still know who they are, but there's something new and fresh that they're bringing forward. And HR just hasn't done that. And we've got to get on this train. And you guys are giving us some great ways to do that. I want to be really sensitive to our timeline. And I do have another question that I know a lot of folks who are in the HR space want to know. So I will ask this, and Jeannie, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Bill, then we'll go to Lorena. If you could give HR professionals advice on how to better partner with internal marketing teams so that they have a collaborative, mutually beneficial relationship, what would your advice be?
Gosh, I don't know that you should have started with me first, because I've always had such a great relationship in working with HR teams from a marketing perspective. But I would say just have an open dialogue about what your goals as an HR team are. Are you looking to upskill? Are you looking to expand? Are you looking to potentially need to downsize and you're going to need to protect the employer brand? What is it that you're being challenged with? And allow marketing the opportunity to then consider that as they're working on their programs and build it into those programs. Because from what I've seen, at times it's very easy and often overlooked for marketing to just add one more element into a larger campaign that really supports your HR needs and your people needs. And I think, just that open dialogue and ask of what your needs are, it goes a long way.
Thank you. I love that. Bill, what are your thoughts?
Well, this is what I've seen in great companies, because we've obviously worked with the Nikes of the world, the small companies of the world. I mean, on any given week, we might be in meetings with Netflix and we're working with an HR department. And in both cases, promotion and communication and clarity of mission come from the top. They really do.
Yeah.
And in a perfect world, we'd love to see great CEOs and great presidents who don't just make our finances work or make our M&As work or whatever we're doing, but are actually encouraging that total integration. Because sometimes, old school, people see marketing as like a big speaker on our front door shouting out to the world. But we now understand that great marketing is 360 degrees with speakers integrated throughout the building, throughout our employees, throughout our contractors, our vendors, our partners. And that's where this beautiful integration with HR comes in. And in a fantasy world, and I've seen this among some emerging companies right now, the HR department and the marketing department meet regularly.
Yeah.
And they talk about shared goals, shared visions, shared metrics. Are we accomplishing that? And they look at the ratings outside, the ratings inside, across the board. In fact, one of them, I saw them do just a brilliant job. I won't name names, but I sat at a dinner table with them 8 years ago, and they told me about how HR played such a critical role. And I worked with them on both recruiting and building culture. 6 months ago, they just sold that business for $2 billion. And they did it under the premise of not only we want to grow this and do great things, but we want to take care of our people, because we're in a people business. And I
Yes.
think that's critical to their success.
I love that. And, a lot of progressive HR teams are changing their name to people and culture, or the talent, or the people team, right? We're moving away from the title of CHRO, and we're seeing chief people officer. We're seeing lots of more creative, but people centered titling and labeling, because we really have to let go of that resource, right? When I look at someone's title and it says human capital, I cringe. Right? We've got to stop treating people like they are inanimate objects and boxes that we produce out in the back, right? It's not like you can just order up 40 more and pull them off an assembly line, right? They're people, they're multidimensional, they have great brains and needs and suggestions, and we have to treat them like that. And we have to understand the value of having a really strategic people presence and the ability to bring forward all of the people elements into the decision-making process for the organization. And that's really what we do, right? We're there to help influence and inform the decisions of our businesses. And so we have to be able to speak that language. So I love everything you just said. So Lorena.
Can I insert one other tiny thing?
Yep.
To add to that, those people, and Lorena mentioned it, what they're going to say when they go to their dinner table, whatever. These are people with dreams. These are people with hopes. These are people that aspire to be better, that want to know that they have significance, that want to know that they're respected, want to know that they're honored. And so I think one of the other things that the HR, and this is hard, has to recognize is that I'm not just honoring them from 9 to 5. I'm honoring them as human beings in their totality, in their hurts, in their dreams, in their hopes, in their fears, in the tragedy of life, and the wonders of all the things that life brings. And that is what probably, for me, is one of the most exciting parts about being an owner and someone that works with other HR companies, is as we invest in those lives. It's one of the most fruitful, most rewarding experiences that anybody in this business can have.
And I will jump in on that one, and I've said this with Jeannie on a stage before. It's one of the reasons why a product like Daily Pay is, I don't stand behind and endorse a lot of HR technology or products, because there's just so much out there and there's unique needs and that type of thing. But I will say, and Jeannie did not ask me to do this, but it is one of the reasons why I think organizations who implement her product of Daily Pay, it is a game changer, because it is a benefit that helps your employees outside of work. It's actually changing the trajectory of their financial life and their ability to create sustainable quality of life within their families. And they have amazing data where they're starting to see it, it can become a generational benefit. So you're spot on, Bill. And I implemented Daily Pay at my last organization, and it was by far the best and number one thing we did for our people, because it helped them take control of their financial lives. So as HR folks, we have to look for things like that tool and programs and opportunities to help lift our people in ways outside of their productivity, outside of their efficiency measures. But how do we help them as whole people? Because they don't hang their humanity at the door when they walk into work. They are multidimensional people, and we have to treat them that way. They are sophisticated consumers. We have to treat them that way. So I couldn't love what you said anymore. So Lorena, if you were going to round up, we're going to hit our time. Quickly.
I'm just going to say that, the question that you asked between marketing and HR, I think the key word is communication, right? Branding has to be owned by the whole organization. You have to love it, you have to own it, and you have to live it, right, Billy Dolan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't say it better, Lorena. You do. You have to love it. You have to live it. It has to be part of your DNA and the DNA of your organization, right? You can't say you're a people-centric company and then treat your people
No,
poorly.
love your people. Love your people. Your people will talk very good things about you and very bad things if you don't love them.
That's right. Absolutely. So I will honor our time because you are all very, very busy running your own companies and business. I want to thank you all. If anybody is interested, you can certainly go to my website, which is businessofhr.com, and I can connect you with Jeannie and the team at DailyPay. I can connect you with Bill and the team at Spirit Media if you need any of their amazing services. And Lorena, you guys need to be following her on LinkedIn if you're not. Her ability to truly change and revolutionize a personal brand is like nothing I've ever seen. And these are three experts who I encourage all of you to connect with, follow. You will learn something, even if you never work with them one-on-one. Following their content will enhance your ability to be a better HR practitioner just by watching what they're doing. And I thank you all so much. I appreciate you. You're certainly mentors for me. Whether I've told you that or not, I'm always looking to see what you guys are doing because I can incorporate that into the coaching that I'm delivering to my clients and the consulting work that I'm doing. And I think the more we can focus on the alignment, the better off we're going to be. Because if we want to have people-centered and people-led organizations, we have to have that alignment. And as Lorena said, that communication. So I thank you all so very much for being here. I'd love to do it again. My goal is to do this every Tuesday at noon with really meaningful guests and content. So you'll be invited back because clearly everyone watching is loving this conversation. And yes, it is recorded. As soon as I close it, it's going to post it on my LinkedIn feed with the actual recording. It may take a few minutes for it to upload, but it does it automatically. And then I will post links to all of these sessions on my website as well, and I'll pin them to the top of my profile. So yes, if you were not able to watch it or you want to share it with your team or something like that, you should be able to do that, and you can reach out to me for links if you need that. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. You're wonderful.
You're
I
wonderful.
love you all
Thank
so
you,
much.
Barbie.
Bye,
You're
guys.
great. Absolutely great.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.